Hello again, and welcome back to Accreditation Unlocked, the podcast where we explore the strategies, insights, and behind-the-scenes realities that drive effective accreditation practices in education. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Clough, and today's episode is a personal one. Over the course of my career, spanning almost 40 years in education, I have sat on every side of the table. I have led self-studies, served on visiting teams, consulted with institutions in crisis, and walked through those high-stakes reaccreditation moments that can feel like they define your whole professional identity. And across those years, I've learned some hard truths, formed strong convictions, and uncovered practices that actually work. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 things I've learned about accreditation that I believe every educator, administrator, and institutional leader should know. These aren't just bullet points. They're experiences, observations, and insights that have shaped how I approach every aspect of this work. Whether you're just stepping into your first self-study, or you're a seasoned accreditation liaison officer looking for affirmation, or maybe some redirection, I hope that what I share today helps you build a stronger, more sustainable path forward. So let's dive into the 7 key lessons I've learned from a career in accreditation. Lesson 1. Accreditation is not an event. It's a process, a continuous one. I can't tell you how many times I've seen institutions treat accreditation like a pop quiz they forgot to study for. They scramble in the final year before a review, pulling documents from every corner, begging for committee time, and trying to reconstruct years of planning and decision-making. It's exhausting and unnecessary. What I've learned is that the most successful institutions treat accreditation as a permanent part of their operational rhythm. They build routines for collecting evidence. They evaluate progress throughout the year, not just when they're on the clock. And most importantly, they embed accreditation into the daily life of the institution. Strategic planning, faculty development, student assessment, and budget priorities. A great example? Well, one small liberal arts college I worked with years ago decided to shift their mindset. Instead of ramping up 3 years before the review, they created a permanent accreditation task force that met quarterly, year in and year out. Their self-study practically wrote itself because the information was current, the processes were fresh, and the team had already rehearsed the rhythm of reflection and improvement. When you see accreditation as an ongoing opportunity for self-awareness and alignment, you stop fearing the review and start using it to get better. Lesson 2 is a big one. Culture matters more than checklists. Accreditation standards are essential, but they are only effective when they live inside a culture of quality. I've visited institutions with perfectly completed reports, clean, organized, detailed, but underneath there was no real buy-in. Faculty saw it as a burden. Leadership treated it like a compliance issue. And students? They didn't even know what was going on. Contrast that with schools where everyone owns a piece of the process. I've seen community colleges where faculty gather to talk openly about assessment, where staff proudly share their role in institutional effectiveness, and where the president brings accreditation updates into cabinet meetings. What's the difference? Culture. You can complete every item on a checklist and still miss the heart of accreditation, self-reflection, improvement, and accountability. But if you cultivate a culture that values those things, even your imperfect documentation tells a compelling story. So ask yourself, is accreditation something your institution does or something your institution believes in? The answer changes everything. Lesson 3. The self-study is a story, so make it cohesive, clear, and honest. Yes, you need data, you need evidence, but more than anything, your self-study needs to make sense. It should explain who you are, what you do, how you do it, and most importantly, why. Too often I've seen self-studies that read like disconnected reports from different departments, stitched together at the last minute. There's no flow, no voice, no through line. That kind of documentation doesn't inspire confidence. It raises flags. A good self-study tells a narrative. It introduces the institution, acknowledges challenges, shows progress, and clearly connects mission to outcomes. It's honest, not performative. In one memorable case, I worked with a technical school that had some serious retention issues. Instead of glossing over it, they led with it in their self-study. They showed the data, described the challenges, and laid out their response, including what hadn't worked. Then they detailed what they learned, what they changed, and how the students were already benefiting from their new support model. Guess what? The site team praised their transparency and called their approach a model of institutional resilience. That's the power of storytelling. If your self-study is an authentic reflection of your journey, not a promotional brochure, you earn credibility and you make it easier for reviewers to trust what you say. Lesson 4. Accreditation can be a catalyst for real change, if you let it. Accreditation isn't just about compliance. It's about growth. But too often institutions resist recommendations because they fear looking flawed. I've seen schools treat findings like insults rather than opportunities. The truth? Some of the most innovative changes I've witnessed started with accreditation feedback. One nursing program I supported was struggling with faculty workload and curriculum alignment. When the accreditors flagged it, the leadership didn't get defensive. They brought faculty into the conversation and redesigned the entire first-year experience, resulting in better learning outcomes and less burnout among instructors. That shift only happened because they welcomed the feedback and saw it as a gift, not a penalty. So when reviewers speak, listen carefully. They're offering an outside perspective you can't get from within your own walls. Don't just meet the minimum standard. Use their input to transform what's possible. Lesson 5. Your relationship with your accreditor should be professional and proactive, not adversarial. There's a myth that accreditors are just out to find faults. But in reality, most accrediting bodies genuinely want institutions to succeed. I've served on visiting teams where we walked in hoping for excellence, not hoping to write citations. The institutions that build trust with their accreditors do better. They ask questions, clarify expectations, and communicate early when problems arise. They don't hide issues until the last minute, and in turn, they get better guidance and support. Think of your accreditor as a quality assurance partner. They aren't your friends, but they are your collaborators in upholding high standards. If you've never reached out to your accreditor outside of required reporting, consider starting a dialogue. Send updates, invite feedback, be transparent. It pays off, especially if you ever need flexibility or a path forward through challenges. Accreditation works best when it's a conversation, not just a verdict. Lesson 6. Leadership makes or breaks the accreditation process. No matter how skilled your institutional research director is, or how hard your faculty assessment committee works, accreditation will fall flat without executive-level support. When presidents and provosts treat accreditation as a strategic imperative, not just a compliance checkbox, it changes the entire institutional posture. Suddenly, accreditation shows up in board reports. Resource decisions reflect accreditation goals. The whole campus starts paying attention. One example that sticks with me was a university where the president insisted that accreditation updates be part of every leadership meeting. She regularly asked questions like, "How does this initiative support our self-study?" Or "Will this align with our outcomes data?" That level of engagement sent a powerful message. Accreditation isn't someone else's job. It's everyone's responsibility and a pathway to excellence. So if you're in a leadership role, show up, champion the process. If you're not in a leadership role, help your executives see the value and visibility accreditation deserves. Lesson 7. Documentation is your accreditation lifeline, but only if it's organized and meaningful. The old saying goes, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And that's absolutely true in accreditation. But there's a difference between hoarding files and curating evidence. I've seen campuses with thousands of files dumped into SharePoint with long nonsensical names. No structure, no dates, no context. That kind of mess creates confusion, not clarity. What works? Intentional systems, clear naming conventions, version control, organized folders by standard or criterion, regular audits to clean up and archived outdated materials. Even better, annotated evidence. When you submit a document, explain what it is and how it supports your claim. Connect the dots so the reviewer doesn't have to guess. I once helped a college create an internal evidence map that linked every standard to specific documents with a one-sentence rationale. It saved time, reduced errors, and made their self-study bulletproof. Good documentation isn't just about compliance. It's how you preserve your institutional memory. It helps new staff understand what's been done. It helps your future self get a head start. And it builds confidence during site visits because you can now prove what you've said. Don't wait until the year before your review to get your documents in order. Build sustainable habits now, and your future team will thank you. Key takeaways and reflections. So let's recap the 7 things I've learned about accreditation. Number 1, it's a continuous process, not a one-time event. Number 2, culture matters more than checklists. Number 3, the self-study is a story. Make it honest and cohesive. Number 4, accreditation can drive real improvement if you let it. Number 5, relationships with accreditors are partnerships, not battles. Number 6, leadership buy-in is essential. And number 7, documentation is everything, so make it count. These lessons come from years of being in the trenches, leading, supporting, and sometimes troubleshooting accreditation efforts. They've helped me see accreditation not as a burden, but as a vehicle for real institutional clarity, collaboration, and growth. If you're feeling overwhelmed, remember, you don't have to master everything overnight. Focus on building a strong foundation, creating sustainable systems, and fostering a campus culture that values the pursuit of quality. Accreditation isn't about perfection. It's about progress, purpose, and people. Thanks for joining me today on Accreditation Unlocked. If any of these lessons resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Reach out on social media, share this episode with your team, or drop a note through the Accreditation Collaborative website. And if your institution could use support in building a better accreditation calendar, strengthening your self-study, or developing documentation systems, we've got the tools and workshops to help. Don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. This has been Dr. Ken Clough. Until next time, keep moving forward and keep unlocking the power of accreditation.